This is something that I'm bringing up almost every episode because I find that when I go out and I talk to writers, they're interested as well, because we had some high profile exits by associate editors not that long ago. They blew up on social media and let everybody know, hey, this is what happened to us. We weren't paid enough. We were overworked, and publishing is not viable for us. Did you feel that way at all when you were editing? Did you have to work a second job, or was this at a time when publishing was paying a little bit more money? What was your experience as an editor prior to becoming an agent?
I mean, I don't imagine they were paying much more money then, but also, like, that was all I knew. It was my first job out of college. All my friends were in publishing, also making no money. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. And I do remember once we went out with some friends who were in finance and they paid for us, and that was very exciting. But in general, you just made, not that this is the same way to live, but this is just how I lived. You would make the choice, oh, should I go out for drinks after work, or should I take public transportation today? Right? You kind of make a choice, like, oh, I can just walk from the PATH station to my office on 55th, and then I can save that $2 or whatever, and get a taco after work. So I don't know. It just kind of was. I had a cheap studio apartment that I ended up sharing then. Yeah, but I don't know. I was living in, well, not New York proper, but Hoboken, right across the river, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I didn't have a second job. But I just, yeah, I made it work. And I did have a very good, both of my bosses, both Jason Higgins, who was my boss in marketing when I was at William Morrow, and then Barbara Lilicki when I worked at Harper, had very good work-life balance. And I think that was very key. When I worked in both jobs, really, you were done at 5. You were not expected to work any later than that. In fact, I remember, and kind of looking back, I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I remember, I think once my boss had wanted me to stay a little late, and I said, I've got a tap class at 5:30. I've got to leave now. And she said, oh, okay. So I went to my tap class. But I think that was probably very, very key in being able to have a very sane work-life balance, was just having bosses who also embodied that and encouraged us to do the same.
Well, if you're reading submissions while you're cooking, are you still keeping a work-life balance going at this point?
I mean, well, but that's, I don't really, I shouldn't make it sound like I do all my submissions then.
That's the only time you read submissions is while cooking.
No, but that's, I like to, right? If I'm reading something while I'm cooking, it's because, it's, oh, this writer has just sent a revision and I'm curious to see what she did. I rarely have work that I'm like, oh, I need to get this done, unless it's a contract negotiation. Then I'm like, ugh. But yeah, generally I'm just genuinely curious, and I want to see, I want to read, and I want to see what it is, what changes they've made, etc. And really, anytime I would get frustrated with publishing and think, oh, I shouldn't do this anymore, then I would think, well, what am I going to do in the evenings instead? Well, I would read, which is what I'm doing in the evenings now anyway. So I don't know. But I personally haven't had the frustration feeling in a long time. So yeah.
One more question about money, and then maybe we'll start talking picture books. But you become an agent in 2007, and I've had enough agents on this show assure me that for most agencies, not all, but for most, you're looking at somewhere between 3 to 5 to maybe more years before you're actually making a living as an agent. And then they had to, work side jobs or do something else while they were getting going. Was that your experience?
I definitely did not make much money when I started. I'm lucky to have a husband who's got the full-time job with the benefits. I started in 2007 and got pregnant shortly afterwards. So basically my son was born in 2008, my daughter was born in 2010, and I had very rough pregnancies. So I could not could not read while cooking, could not read, could not cook, could not do much of anything. And so I wasn't getting a ton of work done in those first 5 years anyway, just because of life. But the amazing thing is they grow up as children do. And I was actually very inspired by, I don't remember who the author was now, but it was one speaker that we had at the Rutgers conference, which I'm on the council for. And she said she actually got more done when her kids were young because she couldn't do things like go out for lunch with her friends or take a phone call from her mom or whatever. She would definitely set boundaries and say, okay, the kids are napping now. I need to get as much done as I can between 2 and 4 or what have you. And you would just really focus. And I found that to be really, really encouraging, because I do think when the kids were young, when I put them down for their nap, I had to focus. There were no time for any other distractions or anything. And even now, they're 13 and 11. So it's a little bit more free time, but a little more flexibility. They're not crying. I was going to say they're not crying. Sometimes that still happens, but but during the day when they're at school, I really focus. I focus from 9 to 3, pretty much 8 to 3 now on my work, and it's nice to have clear-cut boundaries. And I find that if I have a set block of time, I can get more done than if I just had this endless amount of time. Then I might find more time for distractions, etc. But
isn't it funny how that works? If I have only 2 hours, then by God, if those 2 hours will be incredible. Whereas if you give me all day, I'll get about 2 hours worth of work done.
Right, exactly. So that was just very encouraging advice for me to hear as an agent with young children. And you can definitely make it work. So.